evening, Galleon. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary again, Monday night live stream. Happy to be here. We had a couple dozen folks watching the committee meeting, the Galleon Finance City Council Finance Committee that just completed, and there are probably some questions that came about because of what was kind of a crowded agenda. There were 5 different items, so if there's some questions, we'll jump right to that. We are in the process of getting on a different topic, getting feedback from the various veterans groups as it relates to the Memorial Day parade and festivities out at Fairview. You know, for the most part, I think we could socially distance the parade. What really want to get feedback from the veterans groups to get from them sort of in the final analysis or being the last word on whether or not we want to have the overall ceremony out there. If you haven't been out there, there's a wreath laying ceremony that is pretty neat, and for the most part, people are closer than 6 foot out there at the cemetery. So stay tuned. On another item, unless state government stops us from doing it, right now we intend to proceed with fireworks on the 4th of July. So, you know, wish us luck, and hopefully the next 6 or weeks or so go pretty well, and that by July 1st we'll be back to something resembling normal. I have not heard about Pickle Run. My guess is that if they do anything with Pickle Run around the 4th, it'll be on a reduced agenda, and we'll kind of have to stay tuned on that. So I think, whether we like it or not, I think we're getting better at playing it by ear and being able to adjust to a schedule that changes a little bit with a little bit less predictability than we would like. So keep your fingers crossed. We'd really like to have the 4th of July fireworks on the 4th, and we'll all have to, you know, practice whatever social distance standards and recommendations are in place at the time. So just a couple of things on the summer calendar, what may or may not come of it. But I would say unlikely on Memorial Day, really waiting to hear from the balance of the veterans groups, but really want to try to do something relatively big on the 4th of July, which might try to recognize some of the people in our area that lost their life in battle, and that's really what we're all about on Memorial Day. Do we have questions?
Not yet.
Go through the park and look at the log cabin. We heard a lot of, I think, justifiable complaints about the condition it was in. The Strickler Enterprises, Matt Denny and his crew, or Denny, Matt and his crew, did a great job, and it looks nice. I think that'll be another feature that people can enjoy this summer as things get around to normal. So, we got anything else?
Not so far.
You know, I think it was interesting. Maybe we've proven it, y'all, that we've hit that breaking point where if somebody's sitting in their living room says, if I hear one more politician talk about one more thing involving this pandemic, I think I'll turn it off. So maybe I was the voice that broke the back. But I do think we made some important steps forward. Want to mention that. Expect some of this legislation to appear tomorrow night and get passed. Although the people who were able to receive the federal PPP and other CARES Act assistance and loans from Small Business Administration, I think benefited from them certainly, and have helped the community continue to keep rolling to the extent it has. There are a lot of smaller businesses in town that are really now in a position to be allowed to reopen, with retail tomorrow and outdoor dining Friday, and then next week regular dining. There are quite a number of hurdles that would perhaps get in the way of those businesses and other commercial businesses in Galleon reopening. So what we are on the very beginning of doing is moving several $100,000 from city coffers into the Port Authority and we hope to, in the next day or two, have an agreement with the port to administer a mini loan program, basically, that would provide up to $5,000 loans, 12 months, same as cash. And I really think that we really don't want the program to be prescriptive, in the sense that if you need inventory, if you run a dress shop and you need to buy some inventory, resources could be used for that. If you're a restaurant and you need to put up some barriers to allow for the proper social distancing, you could probably do that. If you need inventory to restock your freezers, I think that would be in line. So the goal would be to have low fees, no interest, and it really encourage the money to get into the hands of businesses as quickly as possible. Now that some of the social distancing and outright closures are soon to be behind us. There's one other thing. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned briefly in this live stream, and then it was passed the next night, that we were trying to push some money out to the Avita Foundation. That happened. Stay tuned to your media. From what I've seen, some sort of preliminary views. There's some pretty neat pictures and a nice article that will appear in the area's media over the next day or two, talking about how this partnership between the City of Galion, Avita, and our safety forces, what's already taken place as a result. And I think it reinforces those of us who think it was a good idea to provide that emergency funding to the Avita Foundation to assist in their pandemic preparedness. So some neat pictures of an ultraviolet thing that we're going to use to, what's the right word? What's the right word? Disinfect. Disinfect our cruisers and disinfect, more important probably, the ambulances that have already had to carry people who have been COVID patients. So, all right, that's what I got. Anything else?
All right. Yeah, we do have a question tonight. This one comes from Galleon Blog Central. They asked, is there a date set for reopening of the disc golf course?
No, and I'm impatiently waiting to hear the recommendations from the adult and outdoor recreation working groups of state government. Because no one locally has been appointed to one of these working groups, don't conclude that there haven't been local people that have volunteered to be on some of these groups. I goofed on disc golf. Was it 2 weeks ago or was it a month ago?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. The person I goofed on is a longtime good friend, and hopefully he wasn't too offended about that. But it does stay with me, the need to get disc golf open, and I'm really not encouraging civil disobedience, but I've been out there a lot in the parks because there's nothing else to do, I guess, in the last 6 weeks, and every time I'm out there, there's some cars. So if you're obeying, thank you very much, but you might be the only disc golfer who still is. But what I would like to say, all seriousness, is to try to see if we can't get our local health department to reconsider that. This is Monday. Wednesday is the weekly meeting of the EOC, and I'll have service director see what they think at the Galion City Health Department might be the conditions that we'll need to have in place to be able to get that back open. I'm going to over-answer the question. One of the things that we know we're going to need to do, and we're already investing in, is a more rigorous, if you will, disinfecting and cleaning regimen. So when it comes to the disc golf, that was one of the concerns, that there isn't anyone out there wiping off with any regularity the surfaces that might carry the virus. So among the things we're going to step up once the warm weather returns, if it does, is stepping up that disinfecting at all of our parks. And so there's a proposal in place to disinfect our rental facilities so that once The state allows groups of more than 10 to get together. We'll be able to open up East Park. We'll be able to open up the pavilion at the Railroad Depot, as well as the one out at Amon. So in that area, we're going to have more disinfecting. We're going to have a contractor clean it between uses, any of those facilities. And I think you can count on us stepping up the disinfecting of the playground equipment throughout the city. So classic Tom O'Leary over answer, but I hope that's valuable. We're really looking forward to opening the parks, and we know having hand sanitizer and wipes and then having a staffer intermittently cleaning them systematically are going to be key components to having the parks not only allowed to be open, but being a place that people feel comfortable taking their kids.
Thanks, Mayor. I want to keep it kind of along that same topic. Cindy just asked, will the swimming pool open this year?
You know, I think our state representative, honestly, no BS, is doing a really good job. And I bugged his office again today about that. So when a decision comes out of Columbus to kind of ease up on that, I'm sure that Mr. McLean will call Galleon City among the first people. I think it's very important. As you know, among all the other reasons, our investment in the splash park, but we also are right on the verge of making I think, a fairly significant investment in the Heisey Park pool. Given the uncertainty of finances, we probably wouldn't do that if we were certain the pool wasn't going to open anytime before July 1st. So I'm interested, as well as Cindy, about getting some word on when that'll open. Our hope is to get it open. I'd have to tell you, past July 1st, it gets to be a difficult proposition to get it open and staffed for reasons that we could get into, but I really think that's kind of our drop-dead date, July 1st, in terms of getting the pool open. But no word from Columbus, and I think the social distancing, as I think through what's it going to take, I think it's going to be real difficult. It's kind of defies the nature of teenagers in a swimming pool to be socially distanced from one another. Like they have a totally different idea of the distance that they're supposed to have in a swimming pool, and it isn't 6 feet. So I'm a little bit pessimistic, but love to get it open, love to get the pool repaired, but I wouldn't count on it. Sorry.
Okay. Next question tonight comes from Sheila. She asked, has a reopening date been set yet for Charles Street?
No. I think the first thing is to get the pipe in. It's been going a little bit slow. And then that will allow Charles Street to open in terms of getting through as a transportation link. We still have a part of the project yet to do, and that's to identify a contractor to work with the residences and businesses out there to get them tied into the new sewer. So if I had to guess, it would be the middle of the summer before, it would be early summer, meaning mid-June, before the project that's under construction now is finished up and out of people's way. But it's going to be most of 2020 getting everyone else tied in.
Okay. Next question actually also involves sewer. Matt asked, why does the cost for sewer get progressively higher for the more units used compared to water usage?
Well, the rates are the rates are different because we need to raise a different amount of money. I'm not real familiar with how much it goes up, and I'm not sure at what rate. If I'm not mistaken, it is really at a commercial or industrial rate that the cost of sewage goes up a little more. I don't have a rational or a logical explanation for that, but totally separate. There was a long time, and in many cities, the water rate and the sewer rate are identical. Ours has not been quite the same since we lowered rates about 6 years ago. We were able to lower water a little bit more than sewer. And that's probably most obviously reflected in the higher units. It's a neat question.
And that is the last question I have as of right now.
Do we know that person that asked that sewer question?
Yes.
He should actually run for council. It's a really smart question. So that's what you get for asking an insightful question. How those rate structures, water and sewer rate structures, are put together is going to be on the agenda of council later this year. And in fact, on Thursday, the service director and myself are going to meet with someone who is designing a water rate structure, a rate increase probably. And so we're going to start that discussion. I want to use this live stream to get some back and forth on it. Anything else?
No, that's all I have as of right
I
now.
would say that I am looking at not just a user fee, but also some sort of assessment because of the type of improvements that the water system needs. Why I'm arguing perhaps for an assessment has to do with some major expenses, call them investments, I'd hope, but expenses for sure in our reservoir system and the piping connecting our reservoir systems. So, stay tuned. We want to try to talk about it as much as we can in terms of what capital projects would be involved in any increase in revenue to the water fund. But things like some of the piping between the reservoirs, I think those people with some memory and have a boat know that Ammons itself above the dam is not very deep. And there'll be some conversation about what advantage to raw water supply could be gained by dredging out and removing a lot of the siltation that's accumulated in Ammons over the last number of decades. So, all right. If nobody else wants to talk, neither do I. I'm going to go home. Anyone? Any other questions, Matt?
Nope, it does not look like it.
Okay, we're going to institute we hope, a loan fund to allow some of the local businesses now that have a chance to open up on very favorable terms. Our goal is to have Galion look almost as nice a year from now as it did before this whole coronavirus hit us all. So I think that we have every right to expect a good commercial district, and I strongly believe that if we don't fight to keep our commercial, not just uptown, but all of our small businesses vibrant, that if you think you've been swallowed up by Ontario and regional shopping in the past, we will have seen nothing yet if we don't work to provide some easy access capital to businesses to get started again. And so I'm real passionate about it and glad to be helping work with council to come up with a way to get that done in a small town that not too long ago was in fiscal emergency. But so far we're holding our own pretty well. I'll talk with everybody in a couple weeks. I'll see people around town. I'm going to wear a mask out in public, so I'll be hiding. But I would have to say this about that. I can't, so far so good on utilities. This is not a signal to stop paying your utility bills. But I've been really blown away over the last 6 weeks or so how Galionites have recognized, maybe they realized it themselves, but perhaps they listened to what I said. We had a really small little system here, 6,000 customers, and we've got to take care of each other to keep that solvent, and that's the best way to keep the lights on and the water and sewer bills affordable. So keep working with us, and we're going to do what we can to support the local economy, and no one in Galion wants to turn off the lights, and so we're going to keep pushing ahead. Anything else? Going, gone. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck, Galion. Thanks so much for everything. Good night.